Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Underneath the Hood. I'm Dave Martin, the owner of Martin's Auto Repair in Central Phoenix.
I'm Glen Hayward, the proud owner of Goodworks Auto Repair in sunny Tempe, Arizona.
And I'm Lee Weatherby with Accurate Automotive in the heart of Mesa.
And together, we represent 140 years of combined automotive experience.
Our goal is to change the perception of our auto repair industry by going behind the scenes and underneath the hood.
And we hope to share with you what it's like to own a small business and give you a perspective from an insider's point of view.
So let's get started. Hey guys, how you doing this morning?
Really, really good, Dave.
Good.
Fantabulous.
You know what? They just re-released the most reliable cars and the most unreliable vehicles.
Were they
on the
releasing
market.
from prison?
Maybe.
I bet you there are going to be some surprises on
They
there.
were sentenced to life.
There is some real surprises on there, you know.
Yeah.
It was a consumer report.
Mhm.
And what do you think the number one vehicle is?
Well, in the old days, I probably, would have said Lexus or Toyota or Honda or Acura, one of those forms. But
What do you think, Glenn?
I got a sneaky suspicion there's something
I
different.
kind of, I followed this very carefully and closely, and Toyota has always been at the top of the list, followed by some of the other brands that Lee mentioned. And I wholeheartedly agree, but apparently there's been a change.
Yeah, Subaru has
Flip-flop.
made a huge jump.
Subaru, wow.
Scooby-Doo.
Well, you know what? And I mean, that's kind of significant if you really think about it, based on the simple fact that they're graded on their entire car line, not just one vehicle,
Right.
So for Toyota to drop or Lexus to drop and Subaru to
So what do you think
overtake-
happened? So I think that people have been disappointed in the looks of the new Tundra and Tacoma.
I
They're
think
not crazy about the design. It doesn't look like a pickup truck anymore. It looks like some kind of glorified who
Yeah.
knows what. And people, when they buy a truck, they're buying it because they want to use it as a truck, not because
Absolutely.
they want to parade up and down with the prettiest thing on the street.
Well, I think even the Tacoma kind of fits that same category, the new designs that come along with that.
And they keep making them bigger. I mean, the Tacoma used to be a tiny little pickup truck.
You bet.
It was like, two-seater, and then went to a seat and a half, and then they went to a two-seater, and they kept lengthening it, making it bigger, taller,
Yeah.
more muscular looking, whatever. But
I'm going to tell you, I think I would guess that EV that they tried to come out with, it didn't help them. You know what I mean? That just, I don't know. I can't imagine that did anything positive for them.
Well, and Toyota, weren't they the ones that said that they weren't going to really do anything with the EVs? They were just going to stick with the hybrids?
Yeah, they were pretty adamant about that, and especially with the success
and they
of the
cashed in. I
Prius.
mean, that was a cash cow for them. I've
Oh.
never seen a vehicle that sold more makes and models that had, hybrid options, plug-in hybrid options. I don't think anyone's really excited about the plug-in hybrids. I know they've sold a lot of them when they first came out, but that seems to be dwindling more than it is excelling.
Well,
but I think that's still a much better vehicle than the EV itself.
Well, and
electric vehicle.
Absolutely.
And guys, on this report, the one thing that I really want to emphasize here a little bit is it's really important because the average vehicle right now is $48,000.
50 grand.
Yeah,
Wow.
50 grand. Think about that.
Think
And
about the payments.
So can you imagine if you buy a
I don't
vehicle?
want to think about the payments.
Can you imagine you buy a
Who's
vehicle
got
for
50 grand?
$48,000?
No one's got 50
And-
grand cash laying
and it's
around
not very
their wallet.
reliable.
Oh, let's go buy a new car.
See that now, Dave, you bring up something right there. Okay,
I wouldn't
so-
want to spend that kind of money. I'd be ticked off. I'd buy a vehicle and then you got to have it's broken down. It's got issues.
But wait,
The
that's
best-
not all.
the best-
It's not just the cost of the car.
Yeah,
Now
well,
your insurance, you got to carry full coverage.
Well, cost of maintenance.
Oh my God! No,
You know what I mean?
cost,
Well,
of maintenance is actually
there you go.
less.
And-
Cost of ownership.
Yeah, cost of ownership is the
Mhm.
whole deal.
Yeah.
They're going to be paying, everyone will zero interest. So who cares when you're paying $800 a month and then your insurance bill? Then insurance has skyrocketed.
But that's
I'm
just the cost of
Any
the vehicle.
listener out there can tell you your insurance rates have almost doubled on everything you own, whether it's your house, your car, your boat, your SUV, your motorcycle, whatever it is that's insured, your rates have doubled.
It's almost
So
like
now-
it's almost like our groceries, Glenn.
Well, and here's the thing. The thing is when you buy a new vehicle, those are very important things to check into because if you buy a vehicle and your insurance doubles, you may be able to make the car payment. Now you can't pay your insurance.
Well, you can't drive because you can't get gas.
Right. Right. Exactly. And you want to know what kind of pig in the poke they're buying.
Well, so let's do this, Dave. Can we delve into the list a little
Let-
bit?
yeah,
Let's
that's-
talk about some of
I
the
was-
cars that are okay. Subaru was number one.
Yeah, you're reading my mind here. Okay.
Yeah.
So guess what number 2 was? What do you think number 2 was?
Toyota, Lexus, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to say Lexus.
Yep, you're 100% right. A Lexus.
I usually am.
Number three. Number three.
Except, don't ask my wife, though.
Well,
okay?
see, the funny thing is with these consumer reports, they kind of break things out. So like they grade differently Lexus and Toyota. So I would say it's either Toyota or Honda is going to be number 3.
Right.
Or Acura.
Well, think about this. Lexus and Toyota came from the same family.
Well, they are the same family.
Yeah, right.
Acura,
So
I have a friend who
they're not even distant cousins.
yeah. They're kissing cousins.
That's right.
my good friend,
Close.
my good friend Bruce Nation. He's been an Acura Toyota specialist. He's got a specialty shop out in Westlake, California.
Independent Auto.
And Bruce said that Acura really has fallen as far as their quality.
Wow.
And they used to be really respected as the high end, like Lexus is to Toyota, Acura was to Honda. Now Honda has way excelled.
Oh, yeah.
Much further ahead of Acura, and Acura is really struggling.
Is it interesting how those flip flopped? You know what I mean?
It is.
I think with Acura, I think part of the thing there is they tried to get too fancy with them, and I think they ran into a lot of problems where they just tried to put too many bells and whistles on there.
Exactly, the technology has killed them.
The technology has hurt them. So that brings up number 4, number 5. Number 4 was Honda. Number 5 was Acura. So they're right there. And then you got number 6 is Mazda. Number 7 is
Mazda
Audi.
was on the top of the heap last year.
Were they?
Yes.
Wow.
The last Consumer Reports, in fact, I mentioned in one of our podcasts that, it was surprising to me, Mazda, because so many of the things are similar to Ford, the drivetrains and everything, they're swap and spit, if you will, with Ford. And to see Mazda at the highest end of the echelon there was pretty surprising.
Well, and then you got now you look at all the top vehicles in there, they're all Japanese made vehicles.
Well, I think, see, but that now literally that says something that we probably ought to take note of. I think 8 out of the top 10 are Japanese foreign. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so I mean,
because number 7's Audi, and then you got 8 is BMW, and then you got number 9 is Kia, and Hyundai is number 10.
Wow.
So you're looking at
But mind you, some of these vehicles are not always made in Asia.
Yeah.
Many of the Hondas and Hyundais and Kias and everything, they're made in Mexico. They're made here in the United States. We have plants in North Carolina and Tennessee and different places where these vehicles are manufactured, which I think it's been a good thing for the American economy, number one. But on the other hand, it's also kind of kicked the local OEs like Ford, GM, and Chrysler. Well, they're not owned by. It's not an American company. Theoretically, it is, but it's owned by Stellaris. But the deal is that the changing of hands of these companies has had an impact on its employees as well. And I'm not sure that everyone's always doing 100% of what they should do to make the vehicle that they're assembling as quality.
Yeah, 8 out of 10.
I hate to say it, you know what I mean? But Glenn, to your point, at least to an underlying tone of your point, that is,
underlying tone.
Well, the quality of the vehicle for the consumer, let's face it, because that's what we're talking about. $50,000 to go buy a car, and you want to have some longevity and reliability. And the number one manufacturer nowadays is Subaru. We all assumed it was Toyota, but Toyota's right up there close to the top.
Yeah,
You've
right
got
there.
Your
Yeah.
Hondas, you know what I mean? And let's face it, I think of all 10 there, I didn't even hear you mention one American quote unquote manufacturer.
and
there was
they're
two
at the bottom of the
European.
barrel.
you
for the
brought
most
that
part.
up, and I'm glad you brought that up because number 11. Guess what number 11 is? It's Buick.
Buick. And see, Buick's long been the standard. Everyone used to think it was Cadillac.
Oh, no.
Oh, my goodness.
No,
GM.
the
GM
most
is
high-tech stuff that GM has ever
Buick.
built has all been Buick.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of
great cars.
Supercharged,
Those are the ones
turbocharged. They were the first ones to come out with it in the 60s.
That's what my in-laws drove.
That's what
Buicks.
my
Forever.
dad drives a Buick.
Yeah. there
And
go.
you know what? That was back in the day. And a lot of the clients that I had back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, they would.
Buicks?
Buick was it, man.
Well, and the funny thing is, I mean, if you really think back, and this is kind of off topic a little bit, but if you go back, think about where all the real new innovations came out in the GM lines. The Grand National, Buick.
Yeah, right. Oh no, yeah, they were kind of
superchargers and turbochargers were on those things in the 1960s
Absolutely.
and 70s.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they were ahead of their time. Man.
They were.
They really stayed ahead of it. And then we got number 12 is Nissan, which Nissan kind of dropped. I years ago I had a lot of clients that had some Nissan trucks, and boy, I'll tell you what, he drove those things for like 400,000 miles.
I have a 93 parked in my shop here that I bought from a customer. Thing's got like 170,000 miles on it. It runs just like the day it was.
So here's
sold,
here's
you know?
here's the real question, you guys, because I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't buy a Nissan if you paid me to own it.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Not today.
Their
I would
transmission,
t-
their
I-
transmission
I-
has been the pitfall,
Oh.
downfall.
Do you know
of
what's
that whole-
fun? What's funny about this?
And now they're merging.
This happened about
Are they
3 years
really?
ago.
Yes, they are.
Wow. Well, I will.
They're merging with who?
I just read an article. They are merging, I believe, with Mazda, if I'm not mistaken.
Well,
Well,
I will.
Maybe that'll help them.
I will.
Someone's got to pull them out of the hole.
I will
that
tell you
they're
this:
in.
that there was some people that came into my shop and asked to talk to my technicians about. They were from Nissan,
Yeah.
and they want.
and they're talking
they-
about bringing Mitsubishi.
They were having
and
some
things, too.
issues. They were having some issues with their cars, and they wanted to input from the technicians. So I let them talk to my techs, and they basically told them what the issues that they had with Nissan. And so they're definitely realizing that they're having some issues, and they're trying to probably work through those. And they're going out trying to get feedback. And
Yeah.
it was first time I've ever had a car company ever send people out to go to different shops to find that information.
And listen, I think that's admirable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hope, I guess my point in bringing up the thing that I was talking about before is I hope that, generally competition is supposed to make, you know what I mean?
Yes.
People work harder.
Right.
And so I can only say this. If you look at these lists, just to, your point earlier, Glenn, Toyota and Honda have always been what we're going to call fixed.
Yeah.
They've been kind of fixed standards,
Yep.
you know what I mean, on
Gold,
the
the
list.
gold standard of automobile
what,
ownership.
Yeah, what we should strive to. And you know what? The key to it is they remain there. Listen, I don't care what anybody says, but for anybody that's ever put in,
But
the
you're an
extra
old
effort
Honda
in
guy.
working, I am an
You
old
started
Honda
in
guy.
the industry
But
with
you know
Honda,
what?
but- And
listen.
to
I
your
started.
credit,
I
to your credit.
I started my career at GM, and you know what? I love GM, but the key to it is, oh boy, some of the changes, like you stated, that you see nowadays are just it's mind-boggling.
Well,
really.
they tried to get into the diesel industry in the 1970s
Well,
and 80s and had a two-piston ring gasoline motor.
Let's talk about Ford.
They have the 350.
Let's talk about 13. Let's talk about number 13.
Well, why don't
That's
we
Ford.
do this? I would love to flip the script. I'd love to go down and tell me what are the cars that I need to really kind of be careful with.
Well, that's where I'm
Stay
getting
clear
at.
of.
I'm getting to it, man.
Well, how many are on this list?
Well, there's only
And warn my
22.
customers.
Oh, there's only
about-
22.
There's only 22.
Dude.
Hang in there, Lee. Hang in there.
All right.
I got your back here.
All right. I
He's
like
like,
it. I
he's
like
like
it.
the kid who wants to open the gifts
I-
at
well,
the Christmas
I'm
the
just
day
thinking- I'm just
before,
thinking,
Well,
I hate to say it, but anything past the first 4 or 5, you already lost me. I'm not going to be paying too much attention to those cars because the bottom line is I'm not going after those. You know what I mean?
But you know what though? I think one of the things that we want to make sure that we explain or educate the customer or educate the consumers
You bet.
is letting them know why we think some of these vehicles have dropped way down. And when you're looking at some of these vehicles in here, like number 13 is Ford.
Yeah.
Now, where was Ford before? Ford used to be way at the top.
Yep.
And they had
What year was that, Dave? Because I don't even have recollection of that. I'm an old guy, and I'm trying to remember when Ford built a good car.
Well-
you know what I mean? Now their trucks are spectacular.
Right. I was just going to say that.
Here's
Yep.
the
Yep.
thing.
That's
Tell
what
me-
saved
tell
their
me-
bacon,
tell me-
basically.
I mean, was it when they came out with the Pinto? I mean, was it the Lee Iacocca era?
No.
When was Ford on top? You see what I'm saying?
I'm talking. You're right, 100%.
Yeah.
You know what? Their cars, they had their issues, but you know what? I guess I'm mainly because I'm a truck guy.
Yeah.
I'm looking at their trucks. When you look at a lot of fleets,
Yeah.
most of them are Ford.
Yeah. But unfortunately, some of those Ford trucks,
The
even
Transit
now,
has not been a winner
bingo.
for them.
I was just going to say,
It's not been.
but see, and that's classified as a truck, but it really isn't. You know what I mean?
It's a piece of sheet metal with 4 tires
Well,
on it.
it's a box put on a car.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Well, and one of the things that I was really disappointed with Ford was I drive a Econoline E350.
Yeah.
And
older though.
It's 2012,
Yeah.
but they stopped making them.
Yeah.
Now they make the Transport, I think it is.
Right.
And
Guess what, Dave? Do you like your Econoline 350?
I do.
It's spectacular, right?
Right, I love it.
And you don't have all of the repeating offenders, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As far as, you know what I mean?
problems.
Breakdowns and maintenance and things like that.
It's a great vehicle.
It's a great vehicle. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I mean, let's, like I say, it's off topic.
So and then number 14 was the Genesis, which is a Hyundai product,
Yeah.
right? And then you got Volvo's 15, and Volvo was always, their claim to fame was always safety.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were always at the tops of the safety ratings, but they I think they, on the other hand, went a little bit too fancy too,
Yeah.
and got a little bit the technology.
I think they got greedy with a lot of the European cars because they were getting all this money for them, and hey, we can make more by doing more, offering more, or something, and they over-engineer stuff and end up screwing their customers.
Well, over-engineering is a good word because that's exactly what I feel like too.
You guys, but not to be the elephant in the room here, but I mean, as you go down this list, you know what I mean? As you go down
that's
this
the
list,
elephant in the room.
What I see is you're talking about over-engineering. We're talking about
Yeah.
over-styling. We're also talking about inflated costs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of these vehicles that are down towards what I'm going to call the middle or even towards the bottom, you know what I mean, have more of an inflated price tag. I mean, if we're talking a base price, okay, an average median price of 48 grand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that tells you right there.
You're probably not even going to get close to a Volvo at 48 grand.
I'll justify
You know what I
some
mean?
of those
You're probably
costs,
not going to get close to an Audi at 48 grand.
Believe it or not, the Highway National Traffic Highway Safety, whatever,
National Transportation Safety Administration.
yeah,
NTSA.
they're constantly putting pressure on these car manufacturers to put more safety gadgets on your car. All these sensors and cameras and everything else like that to avoid accidents.
ADAS systems.
People are still absolutely bewildered by this stuff. These lights are flashing and their car suddenly change. They move lanes and the car steers itself back.
The seat buzzes you.
Yeah, after a while you get used to it, I guess. But those systems add, thousands and thousands of dollars to the cost of your vehicle. And when you have an accident, oftentimes it can be the difference between your car being totaled
Absolutely.
and your car being able to be repaired because the insurance company says, no, all these systems, the airbags all blew up, all your cameras have to be replaced, the car is totaled. What? It looks like a simple fender bender and all your car is totaled. So the conveniences and what someone else's opinion is of safety. Safety is how you drive your car.
Mm-hmm.
Safety is paying attention, not playing on your phone. All these other things, those all contribute.
But
the cost of these cars, what I'm saying, has become astronomical because people drive like morons many times. Not everybody out there, please
Glen,
forgive me.
stop it.
Stop it. And if you're one of them out there, you got to think about your driving habit. It does make a difference, though, in the overall cost of owning a car today.
There's
it
no
impacts
question.
the people who drive nice.
Yeah.
They drive decent, but they have to buy these features now that they never really needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is, it's remember when we go to get a vehicle or something like that, it's always selective. You know what I mean? And we have the chance to purchase the things that are appealing to us. You know what I mean?
Well, some of those things you can't opt out of. Well, I don't want the safety
question.
sensors. I don't want the airbags. I don't want the this and that.
Well, we can't opt out of not having tires. You know what I mean? Unless you're going to get something with wings or something like that. But
Well,
it's
the only
That'll be
thing
the next
we
thing.
got to move on. And the only thing I was going to say is my niece was talking about back in the 70s, and she said when she brought up the seat belting your kids in, and I said there wasn't seat belts back then.
No.
Yeah.
This was the seat belt.
That's right. Well, and many a time I got scarred. Mom and dad both. And that just meant they loved me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah. It's number 16. Let's go into number 16
Down the
is
list.
Chevy.
Are you saying is that debatable, Dave?
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to
this
say
is
that's
16
debatable.
out of what,
I'm going to say that's debatable. I don't want to hurt your feelings.
This is 16, Dave, is this 16 out of 20?
16 out of 22.
22, okay.
Yeah, 16 out of 22 is Chevy. And then you got Tesla is number 17.
Yeah, boy.
And then 18 is Volkswagen.
Oh, well, I mean, so let's stop now
Oh,
for just a
boy.
quick second. I mean, because I'm sitting here trying to do the math and, it's not my forte necessarily, but at the same token, so we're talking about the top 22, all right? So the top 11 would be basically categorized as what would be the upper echelon.
Right.
And then the
More
bottom
desirable,
11.
better
are gonna be,
value.
you know what I mean? And if you think about some of the vehicles that fall into that category, but now you're at 18. Now we're into the bottom 4, right? So we
Bottom of
graded
the
the top
barrel.
4, or we heard at least Subaru. Make sure that I'm correct in this, but I thought it was Subaru, Lexus, Toyota, and Honda.
Yep.
Okay, so that's a pretty quality group of vehicles. Now, I can be honest with you and tell you, I have great familiarity with, all 4 of the vehicles. I don't see as many Subarus, you know what I mean, as I
Yeah,
do
we don't
other
either yet.
makes,
Gotcha.
just
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I don't know that they're as prevalent out here in Arizona. But let's talk about these bottom four, you know what I mean, and what you see, what maybe from a perspective of what we even see in our service base. I think it was interesting that you brought up how, you know, a manufacturer came into your shop
Yeah.
and talked about it, and that was Nissan. I commend that, but boy, their cars are just they've taken a turn that hasn't been really consumer friendly.
Right. And then, well, when you look at Volkswagen, you know, now you're talking about a German-made vehicle, right?
Boy.
And then I'll just go through the last four here are 19 is Jeep, 20 is GMC, 21 is Cadillac,
Yeah.
and then 22 is Rivian.
The new EV, the new electric vehicle,
Yeah,
Rivian.
Rivian.
Wow.
Maybe I didn't say that.
But that makes sense. I mean, look at okay.
But where did Cadillac? I mean, Cadillac. You know, how many when you were growing up, if you had a Cadillac, you were somebody special.
You were a rich guy. You were riding in style.
You guys, let me just tell you this, and this is absolutely no embellishment whatsoever. When my father passed away, all right, my mom had always desired to have a Cadillac. You know what I mean? And she just said, I want that car. Well, I mean, at the time I was already involved heavily in the industry, and I tried to, you know, sway her to a Buick. You know what I mean? I said, well,
yeah,
Buick is maybe just a little bit better vehicle. Nope. I got to have that Cadillac.
Yeah.
You know, and so the
it
interesting
was
thing
a status.
It was whatever it was.
Yeah,
you know
status,
what I mean? We went
yeah.
and found a nice, you know, vehicle, and it was decent. You know what I mean, for its year. And
Yeah.
It was a great car, and it served her well for the remainder of, you know what I mean, her days here. However, it was just like you said, it was deep founded. Got to have that. And now you're saying they're the second worst, or the bottom of the list. I mean, but I want you to really think about this, guys. How many of those vehicles, when we see them in our bays, do we just go, ooh, because what's the first thing you think of as soon as you see that vehicle coming in?
Junk.
Expensive. It's going to be expensive to repair.
Well, let me say this. Back in the day, you had Pontiac, Buick, Oldsmobile, Cadillac, and Chevrolet, right?
Yeah.
They all had their own distinctive engines, transmissions, designs, everything. Now every GM car has got the same four-cylinder motor, except with turbo or not turbo. It's got the same V6 motor. They all have the same one. It's all Chevrolet stuff. So the Chevrolet motors are going to the Cadillac, the Chevrolet transmissions are going to the Cadillac, and they're having problems.
Well,
and so those problems trickle down into every other brand that they still have on the road, which is Buick, Cadillac, and Chevrolet. It's all that's left in the GM brand, and the GM trucks and GMC, which is the same thing.
yeah, and I'm going to tell you, I will only disagree slightly, and
Go ahead.
that is, you know, you say Chevrolet. General Motors is a massive corporation.
They're
okay,
huge, yeah.
So it's General Motors. It's not Chevrolet. You know, Chevrolet is just a brand of General Motors. Okay?
Exactly.
And so just like Cadillac and Buick. But the reason why Buick is a cut above is because the Buick engineers do things with the motors because they have always shared cross lines. You know what I mean? So when you had Oldsmobile and you had Buick and you had Pontiac, which no longer exist, Olds and Pontiac, you know what I mean? They shared cross
Or
lines.
Saturn.
Cadillac and Chevrolet were the ones who actually shared cross lines. All right. But then Cadillac kind of a while back got engaged a little bit with Saab, if you'll remember that.
Yeah.
You know what
Oh,
I mean?
boy.
And the thing of it is,
Yeah, I remember that.
They introduced.
And Saab
they
no
introduced
longer exists. That wasn't such a great idea.
well, the thing of it is, and it's not. Listen, I don't want to belittle anything or anybody. It wasn't good for the automotive industry, and specifically, it wasn't good for Cadillac. You know what I mean? Because some of those ideals were maybe too far advanced, or they weren't really. They didn't apply very well. Now, the thing of it is when you look at what Cadillac is today, Cadillac has tried to always be the innovator and the leader in, you know, that we've got this, or like the CTS or whatever, you know what I mean? Because they've got a funny 3.2. You don't see that cross line in many of the other GM applications. You see what I mean? And so what happens is when those vehicles are breaking down, it's because they're unique, you know what I mean, to that particular brand,
Hey,
which what lands them towards them.
I got to stop you there because this really threw me for a loop. Was you know, we were talking about the worst was the Rivian. Am I saying that right? Rivian?
Yeah, Rivian.
Rivian. And guess what? That vehicle starts at
Probably
70
I think they're
78,000.
How much?
78,000 is what that vehicle starts
That's the
at.
base model. Yeah.
That's the base model. What it starts at is 78,000.
But see, and here's the thing. Think about this. I mean, oh gosh.
Which almost
crazy.
doubles the average of
And it's an electric vehicle.
every other.
It's all
car.
electric, and it has
And-
its technology issues
And,
too.
and if you looked at our list, okay, you saw other electric vehicles closer down to the bottom of the list. You know what I mean? And yet everybody tells you, oh man, these EVs are the greatest thing since popcorn and sliced bread.
Wasn't it?
No.
Wasn't it a Rivian that they're still? I guess they're still investigating it. They don't know what caused it, but that Alan Ruck guy, that actor from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, wasn't he driving the Rivian that ended up in a pizzeria? Or
Well, I
something?
think it was him or his father or something, or an
Yeah,
in-law or something.
something like that. Yeah,
It accelerated through a thing, and you know
yeah,
what I mean.
and you know, technology is great, and they are working
Until it's flawed.
until it's flawed.
Yeah.
You know, I did see one of those driverless vehicles in a roundabout,
Yeah.
and it was on the internet where this thing just kept going around and around and around
Yeah.
because it got confused.
Yeah.
So you know, all that technology is great, and it works wonderful until it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't work,
There's no replacement for humans. No
Yeah.
replacement for people.
Yeah.
I want to say, too, that we're not here to promote anybody's brand or disparage anybody's brand.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Consumer Reports, they're doing all kinds of research and studies. This isn't, Glenn, Dave, and Lee that are making these comments. We're merely bringing the information. And I would advise anybody who's listening to the podcast who's looking to buy a car, whether new, used, or indifferent, find out what the rating is on that car. That's a great start, because if you're buying a car that's already got a bottom of the toilet rating, that's what I call
well,
it anyway.
and also too, when you buy a vehicle, you spend a lot of money on that vehicle, and the thing of it is you want to know what is it going to take to maintain that vehicle.
Yeah.
And you brought this up earlier, Glenn.
What
about
can I expect?
What can I expect?
There's cost of ownership.
Cost of
Absolutely.
ownership,
Any
but
vehicle you have,
And
cost of
that you
ownership.
can find that in Consumer Reports as well. I mean,
Yeah.
do your research. You work too hard for your money to just spend it on some eye candy, something that looks really cool and it's slick and everything. And I'll guarantee, if you buy a used car that's a performance car, you're going to be in for tons of repairs, because whoever owned it before you probably beat the snot out of the thing.
Well, and
Well,
just to give you an example about one thing is my daughter bought a Hyundai or a Kia. I can't remember. But anyway, she bought that a long while back. And the thing of it is they had some issues with that vehicle being easy to steal.
Yeah.
And so the insurance got to
Kia.
be really expensive. It was a Kia. Yeah. And
Those are probably some good factors to look
well,
into.
and that, there's my point exactly. The thing of it is Glenn brought it up earlier. The cost of ownership is part of that cost of ownership is what is the insurance going to cost?
Yeah.
And so when you're looking for a newer vehicle, number one, you want to find out what it's going to cost to maintain that vehicle. And there's a lot of times that we can go into our computer and we can pull up technical service bulletins on all these vehicles, and we can find out
Read
what
them all the time.
kind of design flaws they have.
You bet.
What kind of maintenance you need to do, what kind of things you can expect from that vehicle, and then also you want to know what are the tags going to cost? What is the insurance going to cost?
Right.
You want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row, because if you can afford the car payment, you can't afford the insurance. Well,
And it's rare when we go to that extent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that it's not good idea, and it's not that it's not good education, but it's rare that we go to that extent. I'm going to do one thing right now, and I'm going to cut to the chase, and I'm going to actually call you right out. If I was to say to you guys, this is purely your opinion, okay? Like you said, Glenn, this isn't Glenn, Dave, and Lee saying, hey, these are what you should do. What I want to know is, Glenn, what is your favorite vehicle, you know what I mean, that you would go purchase or that you like to see in your base, and why? Give me one, maybe two. Dave, I'm going to ask you to do the same thing, and I'm going to do the same thing. And then I'm going to flip the script on you and say, now tell me what your worst vehicle is that you would never recommend to a customer, you know what I mean, and why?
Wow. Well, the favorites I have Toyota, Lexus products.
Okay.
I've owned a bunch of them. And from my experience in the automotive repair industry, they require less repairs. They require less maintenance. Well, not require less maintenance, but they don't break down as often.
Mm-hmm.
The quality of the parts and everything else that's in there, what's integrated into the vehicle from its inception, is just better quality. So that's the cars that I prefer to drive. Although I do have a Ford Edge, even though the number 12 on the list from Consumer Reports, I've had zero problems. I did have to put an engine in it when I bought it. That's why I bought it.
Mm-hmm.
Customer of mine came in, had a head gasket problem, which was real common on that 4-cylinder turbo engine. And so she says, no, I'm done. I'm ready to get into a sports car. And she wanted to go buy this new Dodge, whatever Dart thing that they came back with.
So she went from a Ford to a Dodge?
And I gave her, I don't know if she bought it. I gave her the big timeout. I says, you better check Consumer Reports, because I've read stuff on there that says that is not the car you want to buy. Find something, you want a sexier car, that isn't the one that's going to get you there.
So would it be fair to say, I mean, just in kind of a funny little way, but would it be fair to say that it's kind of a pleasure to work on Hondas and Toyotas?
It is,
And,
you know.
and that's for a variety of reasons, not just because, I mean, you've got parts availability, you've got, you know what I mean, like you say, the quality of the components and the things, but the things that are actually breaking down actually kind of make sense, correct?
Yeah.
Well, and
Dave?
yeah, and before I say that, one of the things we talked about the Rivian being an all electric vehicle. One of the problems that it's one of the things that you have to deal with is you have to change the tires on those vehicles a lot more because of the weight of the vehicle. It just wears the tires out a lot faster. But the top four that we just mentioned on here, you got Toyota, you got Lexus, you got Honda, Subaru, all those are great vehicles, and my guys don't have a problem working on them. They like working on them. Actually, they really do. And so
they're not over engineered.
Right. And I'm a big Ford truck guy. So I mean, I like the Ford trucks.
Yeah.
But those are my top picks.
Yeah. Well, see, and so it's fascinating because I just wanted to see, because this is very organic. We hadn't talked about this before, but I mean, my top, the cars that I own, Lexus, Honda, Toyota. I mean, it's just, those are the ones that I know that I can get the most longevity and reliability about. Remember, once again, I break it down to a simplistic form, but those are the vehicles that I prefer to be in. I prefer to work on. I see them, pretty routinely, because people that have them, they want to keep them. And then if you really look around the roads that we drive on, I mean, you see these vehicles all over the roads, and every age, not just all the new ones, but a lot of the old ones are still around too.
Yeah.
So, well, let's I mean, those would be the ones that I'd buy. And Dave, I would agree with you. I mean, and just to say, look at, I'm a GM guy. I wish I drove a 1996 Chevy Suburban. You guys know full well,
Remember
790,000 miles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I loved it. I did. I loved it. Didn't even need it.
But now you spend $790,000 buying a new one.
I would imagine they're quite expensive.
Oh,
but yeah.
they're like $150,000.
Yeah, but when I went to go repurchase to replace that vehicle, I ended up buying Toyota Tundra. You know what I mean? Which was wow, such an eye-opening experience. Really awesome. Well, let's flip now, and what vehicle is the one that shows up in your bay that you just kind of go, oh. Or maybe, you think, man, I would never, Glenn, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to say, hey, listen, I'm in need of getting a new car. I need a car for my wife or my daughter or my kids or whatever. What would you steer me clear of?
Well, I would steer you clear of Nissan because their CVT transmission has been a total disaster, and they've been building them for 15 plus years.
In the bane of their existence.
And they absolutely have not done anything to improve it.
Yeah.
If you want to keep it for 30, 40, 50,000 miles and trade it, that's a great choice.
Yeah.
Because that has been their Achilles heel, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And people are so disenchanted, they buy a used one, and then it gets about 90, 100,000 miles and the transmission fails. Well, it's out of warranty. The transmission costs about $6,000 to get replaced. And there's no apologies being made by Nissan. They created what I call a mechanical abortion.
They did.
And they've done nothing to fix it.
Well,
And that's why they keep dropping further and further down the list of reliable.
Well, hopefully Honda can fix that because they're merging with Honda.
Are they really? Nissan's
Yeah.
merging with Honda.
Yeah.
That's
It
awesome.
was Honda. Okay, I knew it was.
You said something earlier, and I don't remember which one.
You said you thought it was Mazda.
Mazda. Yeah, you did think it was
Now
Mazda.
that it's Honda, I'm thinking, wow,
Yeah,
brighter
yeah.
days ahead. But listen,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you.
But they're pulling in Mitsubishi, and along with that there's negotiations with. I just read it on Ratchet and Wrench that they're going. The Mitsubishi, and there was another.
Well, let's not get confused.
Japanese.
Honda and
You
Nissan
would say
confirm
Nissan.
plans to merge into 3 larger automakers.
Love it.
A third larger. I read that wrong. Sorry, guys. Yeah, Honda and Nissan confirm plans to merge into 3rd largest automaker.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, 3rd largest. So they're trying to. Hopefully that they can get that all figured out and get that fixed.
But I got to be honest with you. Number one, I love the pick. Number two, I love the reasoning. You know what I mean? It's really well thought out. And I love the fact that, you know what I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I feel like you'd be protecting your clients because that would be, that's one of the ones that I would say as well.
Well, there's ergonomics that are involved too. I mean, I drove someone's car the other day.
Ergonomics? What kind of a word is ergonomics?
The way that the car is laid out interiorly for convenience of
Ergonomics.
Yeah,
That's what it means.
Yeah, So you're going.
Ergonomics.
So you're going for a button to like move the mirrors and stuff like that. This stupid thing, and I can't remember what brand it was, but it was down by the console instead of being in the door. You'd have to look down to find the button, and when it's right
Taking
here,
your
you
eyes
can
off the
glance.
road.
Well, I wanted to adjust the mirrors because this person obviously was a different size, probably a very small person because the seat was way forward and all the mirrors were. So I had to adjust the mirrors because I like to drive safely, right? Be able to see what's on any side of me. But the ergonomic layout of many of these cars is so stupid. I mean, it's like the radio. You got to hit 5 different things to get what you want on a touch screen, while you're distracted and you're trying to figure out what the hell you're trying to do. Get on the radio or change the station or whatever. And it's all on one screen now. So you got to hit this button to hit this button to hit this button. And it's so distractive. I can understand why people have more accidents. Before, you could hit one button, change the station, hit another button, you're changing your station. Now they got all these screens and distractions and everything going on. I don't think that to me, and I'm not trying to, get up on the pedestal here and say I think it's all wrong, but there are certain things that are
So in other words, in your opinion, it would be ergonomically incorrect.
ergonomically challenging.
All right. Well,
and I think and probably
which car? I want to know which car.
Well, it's probably VW.
That what you never recommend.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord.
Oh, wow.
I'll join you on that one.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? That's one car that I tell people, if you really want one, lease it 3 years and then get rid of it, because the longevity of it, when it gets to about when you start to get 100,000 miles on it, it's going to just get expensive to keep.
Yeah.
Maybe less.
Yeah.
We
Maybe
get
less.
some that are way less, and all the
And now-
plastic parts that they put
What
on
about
the
you, Lee?
engine now, crack
Well,
brakes.
I'll tell you what, those two would have been, my top 2. But if I'm going to, be different and come up with something, I would tell you really got to be careful on your Dodge products that you're buying nowadays, especially anything with that 3.6 motor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're even having some difficulties with the Hemis and things like that. So, and I just think that
multiple valve cancellation, all the
Well,
crazy stuff to make them more economical,
and the
it
funny
just
thing
ends
is,
up costing the customer.
the funny thing is some of the products that they build are really, to your term, sexy. You know what I mean? They really are. They have a good
It's
look
just so
and
sexy.
an appeal. However, they just don't have the reliability or the support. You know what I mean? Of any foundation. You know what I mean? From their transmissions to their engines. And so I would tell people to take a step back, before, and see if there might be a better option, available. Unless, once again, and I think it's fascinating that we've all three said the same thing, and that is, you want to buy it for 50,000 miles and then you want to flip it. There's not a car out there that you probably couldn't go get.
Right.
Go attack.
Right. That's
The thing
kind
of
of
it is,
yeah.
but as fascinating as it is, we're talking about throwaway vehicles. We're talking about vehicles now that are 48 grand that we're going to spend, to go buy, lease, or whatever, and then in 3 to 5 years, for
But
the most part.
50,000
not even-
miles, though, you haven't even paid the thing off yet.
That's my point.
They're going
That's-
6 to 7 years on these finances.
That's
so now
my point.
you trade it in, you go further into debt. I mean,
Well,
Brutal.
you need to
It's
listen to
absolutely
Dave
brutal.
Ramsey, everybody.
Here's the bottom line. We're running out of time here, but here's the bottom line on this thing is that the consumer, these reports are put out there, and what we recommend to our consumers or to our clients is, number one, is look at those consumer reports
You bet.
and see what they're saying, and then come talk to us about it, and we'll give you our view on it, and we'll look up some of those technical, some of the issues that they're having, the common issues that they have with these vehicles, and we'll try to help steer you down the path to where you don't buy a vehicle that's in the shop all the time.
Amen, Dave.
And that's the
Yeah.
important thing that
Yeah.
and there again, like we said earlier, test and check the cost of ownership. That is the most important thing.
You bet. Well, it's a key. It's critical because
Yeah.
it's to have it and let it sit in the garage, look at it, admire it. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah,
Well, guys,
and don't let any car manufacturer ever tell you that your vehicle is almost maintenance free.
Yeah.
yeah,
There's no such thing.
That's
the cost
big
the
lie
cost
right
of cost
there.
of maintenance. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we see thousands of them in our bays every year.
Yeah, they're maintenance free.
Yeah, maintenance
Well,
free.
guys, it's been a great show.
Really has. Thank you.
Been fun.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode.
Me
Guys,
too.
be good.
All right, bye.
Thanks.
Bye.